What's up, Grace Girls? Welcome to the Allow Yourself Grace podcast, where we focus on helping Black women change their lives by discarding negative thoughts, pivoting in the right direction, and shifting their mindset through cultivating a trauma free lifestyle. I'm your host, Courtney Kristen, educator, content creator, life coach, counselor, and mental health enthusiast living in Houston, Texas. I created the Allow Yourself Grace podcast because I wanted to create a space for Black women to share their thoughts, feelings, and stories that make them who they are without fear of judgment. Allow Yourself Grace provides emotional support and encouragement within the Grace Girls community for women in need of non biased opinions from women other than family and friends. Personal development, self care, career, faith are among many of the topics we will discuss on this platform. Allow Yourself Grace podcast is here to encourage Black women to live unapologetically and thrive in being authentically who they are and were designed to be an entire vibe. No topics are off limits. We will cover it all. Now, grab a notebook, pen, sit back, and enjoy the show.
Girls, welcome back to another Allow Yourself Grace podcast. Y'all know we are in the new season, and I have a special guest, and she's starting off the season. So, this is episode number 1. Super excited. We are in season 4, y'all. We've been through 4 seasons. But as always, I like to let my guests introduce themselves because I don't want to forget anything. So, want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here. My name is Angelica Robles. I'm a former undercover agent, Forbes author, and motivational speaker and executive producer. So I'm blessed to be here.
Y'all, I'm blessed to have her here. Okay. Y'all look, we're going to get into everything that she does and, all those credentials that she just ran down. We're going to get into that today. But today I wanted to talk to Angelica about confidence. And so we're going to talk a little bit about, how you move forward after like such a traumatic situation that you experienced with confidence. But I want to talk about, before we get there, how we met. So we met at the Melanin Minds conference. Angelica and I were on a panel together. And so we just instantly connected. Her vibe was great. And so, hey, what better way to, get guests on my platform than to network, right? And so that's how she got here, guys. And so I'm super excited about having her here because we get to have a more of an intimate conversation and kind of get more into her story. So I want her to start with her story and then we'll get into the topic. So you want to tell them a little bit about you and a little bit about your story?
Yeah. So there's a lot of stories. So I'm going to nutshell it in one. So born in Chicago, born and raised in Chicago, in the hood, sister also West Side. And my friend was murdered, dismembered, and decapitated when I was 15. And that really took a toll on me emotionally. And I went through some deep depression, but I grew up and went to college. And I wanted to be a profiler for the FBI. And so I did everything I had to do. And then I got in and I did undercover work for 2 years, which was insane.
That's crazy.
And, being a brown girl and trying to survive in a, white male dominated field was very difficult. But all the high level interrogator positions in the government, you have to kind of earn your stripes. So that meant I had to do undercover work. So I did undercover work for 2 years, thankfully survived, and then became what we call, it's a high level interrogator, but it's a profiler. Everybody knows it as profiler, so we profile people. But I chose my job based on the pain that I was feeling. I was hurting a lot from the death of my friend, and I wanted to know why people do the things that they do to other people, murders.
So it was a way for you to kind of get inside their head.
Yes, and I think part of me wanted to heal from all the pain that I had. I felt that if I understood the killer mind, that it might bring me some solace, which it did. And I have crazy stories about murderers and terrorists and drug dealers and the scum of the earth I interrogate.
Right.
So I've been doing it for 17 years.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow. Do you really have to study them to really just get them to, go ahead and like confess? Like, what is the number one thing that you really have to master?
So comfort.
Mm.
You really have to make them feel comfortable around you in order for them to open up, and they have to feel safe, because a lot of these people, when we are trained, we're trained to talk to the child in them, and because at one point they were children, and it's because of our traumatic experiences as children, we grow up to deal with, emotional things and really psychotic behaviors, or
Right.
kind of being detached from emotion, which is a lot of what killers have, is they're detached from emotion.
Wow. So I'm just imagining you, a brown girl. She's not very tall, y'all. She don't have her heels on today. She normally wears her heels, but just gaining that confidence and that strength to walk into the room. Like, what was that like your first time?
My first time.
You good, because he's gonna edit it.
Oh, okay.
Good.
I was like, are we live?
You want to help him?
Yeah. Hold on. Can we? Okay. Sorry, guys.
No, you're fine.
He's like, whatever.
He's like, I'm trying to watch videos. I don't know what y'all talking about. No, he is fine. That's why we got. Look, that's why I don't do live, because you never know what might happen. Okay. He's like, look, I'm trying to watch videos. I don't know what y'all talking about.
Okay. Am I good there?
Yeah. You ready, babe? All right. So we were talking about you gaining that confidence, like walking into the room, like getting ready your first time. What was that like?
So when I first started doing it, I started on the criminal side of what is called unfit to stand trial. So these are insane people, pretty much. And a lot of these people are in mental health facilities. So they're very much highly medicated.
Oh, wow.
So these are like the craziest of the craziest, right? And a lot of these people are unfit to stand trial. And so therefore they're not guilty because they're so-called crazy. That makes
Wow.
sense. So a lot of these were very highly medicated. But the first time, it's funny, I just talked about this the other day, is the first time I had my interaction with the first killer, and he was talking to me about his childhood. I felt bad for him, and I learned to have compassion for somebody who had done something horrible. So he had set his boss on fire. He set his
Wow.
boss on fire and threw him off of a balcony while he was on fire.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was definitely not out there. And I was talking to him about his childhood, and he was telling me all the horrible things that his father did to him. So raping him, hitting him, abuse. And I felt bad for him. And I had compassion for the child in him. So once I kind of crossed that boundary of, wow, these people are very mentally ill, I was able to kind of detach my emotion from what he had actually done to what he was dealing with.
That's good, because like when we see stuff on the news, or we, experience things, we're like, oh, you need to put them under the jail, you need to do this and that. But sometimes we don't stop to realize, like, hey, something's really going on with this person.
Right.
Like, okay, let's get to the root of what's going on.
Right.
And so that, you never think about that when you think about that type of job. Like, you don't think about that part. You just think about, hey, I'm trying to get you to confess, or I'm trying to get this out of you so I can put you away.
Right.
And so I deal with that a lot when I'm watching like First 48. like some of the detectives will be so empathetic and you know, like really want to see them do better, and they would talk to them even before they take them off to jail. And then you have some that's like, oh, I'm happy they're gone, but it's like there's something else going on there. Like people
Right.
aren't just out doing crime just because most of the time. So
Right.
that's good. That's good. I love that because empathy, people lack empathy.
Yeah.
They really, really do. I want to get into your book. So your book is based a lot on your life and, you know, a lot of traumatic experiences. And so when I'm talking to different women or I'm going through comments or reading comments, it's like women feel as though like because I'm going through this or because I've been through something so traumatic, I can't move forward. So what is it like to have to experience something traumatic and then have to pick up the pieces and move forward?
So I think for me, having children was a motivator because I have little faces looking back at me and they're depending on me. And so for me, what I went through obviously was horrible. But I always tell this to people, the worst thing that ever happened to me was the best thing that ever happened to me because I got to recreate myself and really just start from nothing and build myself up. And I got to build myself in the way that I wanted to be outside of obviously the marriage that I ended. Do you want me to tell the story?
Yes. So she's gonna get into the book a little bit, y'all, but I want y'all to go buy the book. So she's gonna get into it a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, so the book is called Through These Brown Eyes. It is pretty much a story of my life. It goes into my childhood, growing up in Chicago, going to high school, going to college, joining the government, doing undercover work, and all that. But so during COVID, I was approached to write the book of my life. I had been on a podcast, and the gentleman on the podcast, Mark Wickelson, so he's out in London, he said, "Hey, you really should write a book." And he put me in contact with Hasmar Publishing, which ended up publishing my book. So I was approached to write the book. So I said, I always wanted to write the book, but it came with a lot of fear because if I was going to publish the book about my life, it meant that I was going to talk about the government and the ins and outs and the good and bad of the government. So long story short, I wrote the book in 3 weeks and it was ready to go to editing. And in the process of it going to editing, my husband at the time wanted to read the book. And so he read the book and was triggered by the book.
Oh wow.
And one day I come home and he said, "Hey, I need to talk to you." And he said, "I read your book and you shared everything from your life, and it seemed like you are now free." And I was. So I was almost outgrowing the fact that I had put all of my pain into the book. So now I was now flourishing.
So it's like therapy really for you.
It really was. And so anyway, so he tells me that what he needed to tell me was going to be very bad and that I needed to sit down. Keep in mind, at the time I was working for DEA in the wire room, so I did have my firearm arm on me. So he tells me that him and his family had been part of the Mexican cartel. So I pretty much married as an agent into the cartel without knowing.
So do you think he kind of like sought you out like that's her, I need to have her on my team, or dang, I'm already in it. There's nothing I can really do now.
I think I think he wanted the girl and it didn't matter if I worked for the government or not. And I think he said, "Let me see how far I can go without having to disclose any of this information." I mean, it went on for 10 years because I was busy with work, with babies, with household. And they were pretty secretive about it. Whatever they were doing, they did very well. And so anyway, so he tells me, and I remember reaching like this back to get my gun. And for a split second, I told myself, I'm going to kill him. But then I was like, okay, he is the father of your children. Relax and interrogate him. Do what you do best. And so I calmed myself down and I just said, tell me more. So for 2 hours, he tells me everything. And after he was done, I told him, I need to report this. So this is a part where everyone says you're not a ride or die. But I was like, I can't be a ride or die when you lied to me for 10 years. And now it's my safety and my children's safety are in the mix. So I had to report it. Of course, I reported it to the Department of Defense, and then I went under federal investigation for 7 weeks. So,
Wow. Because, okay, so I'm looking at it from both sides. So from his side, it's like, well, dang, you're my wife. Are you really going to turn me in? Basically, like, are you really going to tell on me? So I can see that part. And then the other side of you was like, no, I need to do the right thing before this comes back on me, which it still came back on you.
It still came back on me. And I tell people what I had in my mind was not turning in my husband, but what I had in my mind is my babies are about to be without their mom. That's what I had in my mind. And at that point, it became survival of a mother and her children over his lies. I had already detached myself from the fact that he had lied to me, and now I was under danger.
Did you ever contemplate staying in the marriage?
No.
Okay. Never. You were like, okay, nope, I'm done.
No, because I felt like if he lied to me about this, what else was he lying to me about?
True.
And this is a big one.
I agree with that.
So if this is a big one, there must have been a lot of little ones.
It had to be for him to keep the lie up, right? Because it's like the old saying, like, once you tell a lie, you got to keep telling lies to keep it up. Yeah. No. So you went under investigation. And so what were you thinking when they came to you and said, okay, we're going to need you to take a paid leave of absence, basically, right?
Yeah. And then I was polygraphed and I was interrogated. So now I was on the other side of the table.
And you're like, man, is this really happening to me right now?
That's exactly what I was going through. And I said, I would wake up some mornings and say, is this real? Like, did this really happen? Or was this a bad dream? And I describe it in the book by getting hit by a train and then peeling yourself off the tracks and realizing you're still alive.
Wow.
That's how I describe it, because that's how I felt.
How long did the interrogation last, or the investigation? How long did it last?
The investigation was 7 weeks in total, which is a long time. But they had to make sure that I wasn't involved and I wasn't stealing secrets for them. So I mean, like taps on phones, emails, laptops, all that, to make sure I wasn't involved.
So fast forward to the book coming out. So after the 7-week investigation, what happened? They came to you with a final decision?
They did. So they said, you're not, we found that we're not involved, and you have two options. You either disassociate yourself from the family or you're blacklisted. Pick one. So I said, where do I sign? So I did divorce him. I left. I took the kids and I was out, and I kept my job, but I decided to publish the book. They didn't think I was going to publish the book. So did they know about the book?
They knew
about the book because they had tapped into everything. So they knew it was there. They knew it was coming out. It was all known knowledge to them. I mean, they knew everything about my life at this point. But they didn't think I was going to publish the book. So the timeline is really nice. So I found out that everything had happened February of 21. Investigation ended 7 weeks after that. So we'll say like March, beginning April. And then I published the book November of 21. I get suspended from work December of 21, and I get blacklisted from the Department of Defense January of 22.
Oh my God. Y'all, this is recent. Like, this is not like 5 years ago, 4 years ago. Like, dang, this is recent.
So I lose my job, my entire career, and there's no money coming in. So book hits bestseller. So I'm living off of book sales at this point. Thank God. And then that August of 22, I signed a movie deal with Hollywood to make the movie into, or make the book into a movie with Gold Tree Films in Hollywood.
So when is the movie out, or is it coming out?
We're still in the creative process. So right now we have writers, but a strike is going on in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So my writers are sitting at home with their legs up.
Okay. No, but that's good. This is gonna be good because you have to like pick someone to play you, right?
We already did.
This is exciting.
Yeah, we have the name. So the only thing I can release right now is the name of the movie, which is Veritas. So it means truth in Latin.
Wow. Yeah. So, okay, your parents live with you, right? So what was the conversation like with your mom and your dad? Because I'm sure they're like, okay, what is going on?
So in regards to finding out about my husband, it was really rough on my dad because my dad really liked my ex.
10 years? Yeah, it's like a son.
And so how my dad described it was he was frozen in time with the news. Like he became frozen to the fact that he was numb. And my dad actually needed, I want to say like a week to process it, because at first he was like, "You're leaving your family," but he didn't understand the the extent of the damage that had happened because I worked for the government, until it kind of started to sink in. And you know how it's like the grieving process. You go through, acceptance, and then you get angered, and then you go back to sadness.
Well, yeah, because older people are like, that's your marriage, stick it out, basically.
Yeah, my parents have been married for 50 years. And so my dad was very hurt, and he said, I thought that he was gonna protect you and the children, and he did the opposite. And my parents are old school, so they're Mexican, they're old school, so that was like the knife in the heart for my dad.
Wow. And so you, as a daughter, you love your parents. I know you were probably dreading having the whole conversation with them before they even found out. And so
for sure,
their initial reaction probably stabbed you as well. Yeah. And so we all go through, like, whenever we experience traumatic, experiences, we go through a depressive state. And so did you have like people that you had to lean on? How did you kind of deal with that state of mind that you were in?
I mean, I definitely, I went into therapy. I had to, because I needed to process all the levels of lies that had compiled within the last 10 years that we were married. But also, I had my parents here in Houston, and of course my brother and my sister that I have, and my other sister that lives in Mexico. And obviously my friend Gabrielle, who is also in the book, and she's the first person I called when I found the news. And I think that when you have a support system around you, you obviously can deal with things very, swiftly, and I think efficiently. But trauma for me had been part of my existence, because I had been through so much trauma that, I hate to say this, but it's true. The more trauma that we go through, we become experienced, and our skin is harder and thicker.
Yes.
And we know how to process it quicker and how to be better quicker.
Yeah, we almost become emotionalists though sometimes. And so I think it takes like special people, and it usually occurs in our romantic lives, unfortunately. That person comes in and it kind of softens you up, because you're so used to being like on the defense and having to take care of all this stuff by yourself, or being there for everyone else. Because when you're like a dominant female, aggressive, you're assertive. I don't like to use aggressive, but assertive. Some people can't handle it, right? And so we have to have somebody who can come in and kind of give us the space to be soft, because when you go through stuff like that, it's like, what's next? I can handle it. We're always on the let me do it, let me fix it mode. And then we have the other side of it where it's like we're always helping people. Like, you're being the assertive person, you're always the person that people come to for help.
Yeah. Which could be very draining, and exhausting. So, like, she can deal with it. She can handle it. She's handled all this. But, I wanted to say one thing going back to my dad. So my dad has not spoken to my ex since it all went down.
Wow.
It's been like 3 years now. It's about to be 3 years this February.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, talk about,
because he's disappointed.
Talk about cutting somebody out, right?
Wow.
I mean, my mom does, because she has to, exchange of children and stuff. But yeah, my dad chooses not to have any.
So your mom handles that for you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, so like, if I'm not home, or he needs to drop off kids or whatever, she has a relationship with him, but my dad chose not to have a relationship with him.
Okay.
Because we have a co-parenting relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. So you and him don't speak?
No, we do speak, but my dad just doesn't speak to him. So my mom is the only one that speaks to him from my parents. Yeah. Okay.
Did he ever at some point regret like not telling you, or did he apologize? Because people struggle with apologies and accountability. So
that's a really good question. I don't know if he regrets not telling me. I think he does not regret telling me, because he got 10 years out of me. Because if he would have told me, there's no way I would have married him.
Wow.
Right? So I did think about that. But another thing that I was able to really have empathy for is, he grew up in the cartel. He was a cartel child. So being in the cartel was normality for him.
It is normal for him.
So I always explain this to people, and I talk about this in the book, about being able to have compassion, was that I grew up in the hood seeing my friends getting killed. So
Wow.
that was the normality for me. Hearing gunshots for me was normal. Whereas to somebody else, hearing gunshots would be traumatic.
Right.
And so whenever he was sharing with me about growing up in the cartel here in Houston, I could connect because of the neighborhood I grew up in. But for him to see lots of money and lots of drugs and see runners, and
It's like normal.
that was normal to him.
Mm.
So the only way I can describe it is, he grew up like Ozark, like the kids in Ozark. They were involved in it. They were amongst it. So
Even though they tried to avoid it, they couldn't.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, I can see that. I can see that because our childhood really shapes, who we become ultimately. But we do have the power to change it. Sometimes it's easier said than done.
Right.
But we do have the power to change it.
I agree.
I kind of want to talk about you. Like now, you're on a journey to empower women. You're speaking everywhere. You're traveling all over the world. What is that like? Because your life has totally changed in a whole new direction.
Yeah, so I think for my personality, it works well. I'm a very social person. I love feeding into people and feeling into people. But for me, my mission and my vision now is to be of service to others and really be able to just serve others and help people deal with their traumatic past.
I love it. I love it. Y'all, when she speaks, y'all gotta go to her Instagram. I'm gonna have it right here on the screen so y'all can go and follow her. She gives motivation out every single day. She's relentless.
Monday,
and so yeah, she has a schedule. She has a system. I really do. And when she's not posting motivational stuff, she's posting workout stuff. So health and fitness, that became like an outlet for you. Yes. Like let me go work out.
Yes, it actually became my savior because when he told me all this, I was actually in midst of competition. So a fitness competition where you get up on stage in a bikini and you
okay. So you were out there.
I was out there, and I was when you're too deep in something and you're too far in, that I said, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. And I remember my coach being in shock, and she said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I said, I need something to pour my energy into so that I can process this. But what I learned was I poured all my energy into the fitness, that after the show was over, that's when the healing started. Because that's when I was forced to look at the situation face to face.
You were forced to sit with yourself.
Right.
So I was listening to something early this morning because when I work out in the morning, so I like to listen to like motivational stuff or podcasts, and they were talking about how when you sit with yourself, like the reason why people don't achieve success or move forward is because they don't know what they want.
Right. Right.
And so that time is important to like really just be by yourself and be like, okay, what do I want? What do I need for me? And so self-care, what are you doing for self-care? Because, you got to keep the mental intact. Sure. You're a mom, you're traveling.
Yeah, everything. So my self-care game is on point. So obviously I work out, I do grounding, and that's, putting your feet in the ground in the morning without any shoes. So receiving energy from the ground, from the earth. We come from the earth and return to the earth type thing. I do cold water immersion. So I take cold showers. It's supposed to wake up the nervous system.
Do you do it in the mornings?
I do it in the mornings. Okay. Yeah. I do it in the mornings before my workouts. And then I also do, I meditate and I script. There's a difference between scripting and journaling. Journaling is you're writing down what happened. Scripting is you're writing down what you're going to become. So, for instance, journaling is today was a bad day, where scripting is I'm going to be a millionaire.
So it's kind of like affirmations.
It's affirmations and writing them over and over and over so that your brain gets tapped into positive affirmations. And then this is a giveaway, okay? This is the biggest trick, okay? Is everybody listening?
Listen, y'all. Looking at camera when you make that point.
So, so this is probably the one thing that I don't tell people. That's my secret weapon. But it's when you listen to guided meditation at night while you're sleeping, because when you sleep, you tap into the subconscious, which is like, there's different sleep waves. So there's like alpha, beta. And so I listen to whatever it is that you're trying to create. So if you're trying to be a millionaire, if you go on YouTube You could just put in there guided meditation to be a millionaire, and you just listen to that while you're sleeping, and it goes into your subconscious. And so when you wake up, you have all this stuff just sitting in the back of your brain. So it puts you into action. It's a tapping into the subconscious. So that's what I'm gonna send you an invoice.
Yeah. I'm taking notes, y'all, because I really when I transitioned into entrepreneurship, I was like, okay, I have to have a routine. Like I have to have okay, I need to get up at this time. Because it's easy when you're an entrepreneur to just be like,
right,
oh, I get up when I want or whenever. Right. But it's like, dang, my day's gone because I got up late. So I read this book called the 5 a.m. Club, and he just talked about like how maximizing your time, like how much more time you get when you wake up earlier. And so just doing that, like I've seen results. So just finding stuff to incorporate into your routine can definitely like just help you be more successful and more disciplined.
Right.
Like I don't think people realize that because they see you, they see me, they may see whoever, and they're like, man, they have it all together, but it's like, nah, bro, I had to do some work. Right. Like the struggle was real. So I always ask people that because it's like people think you just wake up and you're like, I'm online, I'm successful.
No, not at all. Not at all.
No, because I got to think about content. I got to think about but I like that. I'm gonna use that. I like the scripting. That's good.
It's just it's perspective, right? It's a different perspective. Is they say be it until you become it, right? And so if you talk to yourself, it's like positive affirmations. I think they say you have to repeat something 7 times for your brain to actually capture it.
Yes.
So even if you stand in the mirror and say the same thing, I'm beautiful, or I'm worthy, or whatever it is you want to say, you say it 7 times and your brain captures it.
Right.
So there's a whole psychological thing behind it.
I love it.
The scripting, I think is key for sure. Yeah.
So what are your goals moving forward? Because your life's moving fast.
Yeah,
it's moving fast. Like you picked those pieces up quickly.
It looks like I did, but I think I just had no choice, right? And I think I'm very blessed, and I think I don't want to say it was luck because it was nonstop grind and discipline, and I just don't stop. Just like you said, when you want something, you go get it.
Yeah.
And I think I've tapped into the energy of how to get something that I want, with like the TEDx talk and then the Forbes. And so now, the bigger picture now is I really want to, and I guess I'm starting to do it, right? So worldwide.
She's already doing it.
Yeah. So, I'll be in London and then I'll be in Paris. And so I am starting to expand my motivational speaking. And really tapping back into the areas where are needed. So like our minority communities, Black and brown communities is where I came from, and really just giving back to the community in any way, shape, or form that I can. And just teaching the youth that just because you have a bad childhood, or just because you live in a bad neighborhood, doesn't mean that you can't aspire to be something big or be on a Forbes magazine.
Right. Right. And she has a daughter, so this is amazing because she has her mom to kind of see on a magazine, like that's my mom. So that's really cool. When it's your mom, you really don't think about it like that. But when you get older, it's kind of like, man, my mom really did that. So that's so awesome. One other question that I wanted to make sure I get in, because I got this question from a friend. And so she has been in a place of, I've been doing something for such a long time. So kind of the same. I think you can answer this question well, because you had your career, you worked hard to get your career, and then everything changed all of a sudden. And so now you're forced to, okay, I got to start over. God's blessed me with this new thing. How do you walk in that? Like, just step into it without being like, oh, I'm not sure. I was comfortable where I was, but now I'm uncomfortable because I'm in an unfamiliar territory.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll say, I always say this, and I said it last time too. We are adaptable human beings, and as women, we're so powerful. We're able to give life, and so I think that it doesn't matter how big or how small you are or how successful you are. We still have the imposter syndrome always creep up on us. Like we don't think we're good enough. I remember when I saw my article and my picture in Forbes, I probably looked at it for a week because I was like, what? Like, is this for real? Like, this is real. And I think, we're adaptable and we're coachable and we're teachable. And just like we learned to ride a bike, we learn to do everything else. And I mean, I'll explain this. I'm an executive producer. I've never been an executive producer.
You're like,
I'm an
executive
executive
what?
producer on my movie and on
Mhm.
2 documentaries.
Wow.
And God be willing that somebody decided to put me as an executive producer because I don't know what I'm doing. But I always tell people, but I'll let you know when I find out because I'm immersed now into the executive producing world, Hollywood world, and then 2 independent films. And so, I mean, I'm there, right? I'm in the
Right.
boardrooms. I'm in the, I don't know what half of the stuff they're talking about, but it's a learning process and I'm learning. But just for somebody else to say, "Hey, come on my project,"
Right.
I'm like, okay. Do you
Right.
know I haven't produced anything?
Right. No, I don't know anything yet,
I don't
right?
know anything
Not
yet.
yet,
Right.
right? I'm learning. I love it. I
Right.
love it because people need that. They need that, like
Right.
that push, because we're so scared sometimes to try new things. And then once we try them, it's like, man, okay, I can do this. I'm glad someone saw it in me.
Right.
So, because there's something that they have to see in you in order to provide you with these opportunities.
Right. And you just learn new skills, like now I know about the book industry, about the audible industry. Now I know about the
Mhm.
filmmaking industry. And now about the speaker world and I'm learning all these different industries and now I can teach others how to get into these industries and
Mhm.
how to thrive in these industries based on what I've done. Like I remember they didn't want me to do my audible and I said, "Wait, it's my story. Who else is going to do
I
it?"
want to do it in my voice.
Right. And I did
Yes.
it and it came out great,
I love
And then
it.
I got exposed to the voiceover world. And so there's just
Mm.
so many things that I never thought that I would be good at because I worked for the government for 17 years, that I lost my identity in government, that when I became an author and a motivational speaker, I was able to just transition very swiftly into it because it just happened.
Yes, for the transition.
Yeah.
I love it. It's scary as hell, y'all. I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
But transitions are great. They are great. And she just dropped the whole gem on y'all. So if you didn't get that, make sure you stop it, rewind, and go back
Right.
to it. The next question I have for you is just learning to celebrate you. So you said, like, when you were on the cover of Forbes, you were like, man, for like a whole week, like, is this me? This is really me. When did you celebrate?
I celebrated. So it came out on a Monday, right?
Mhm.
And I knew about it. You know how sometimes you know things, but you don't want to say
You
anything.
just like brush it off, like what?
Well, I think I wanted the impact of it because I almost didn't believe it. Like I thought they weren't gonna publish it.
Mhm.
And then Sunday night they said, "All right, it's coming out Monday morning, your time,"
Oh
because it
wow.
came out in Forbes Morocco. And I picked Forbes Morocco because I want to start um, extending out to places of the world where
Mm-mm.
people don't know my book or haven't heard about my book. And so that's why I picked Forbes Morocco, which was a global edition. But to go back to the question, I kind of was like scared because
Mm.
I didn't think it was going to come out, like almost at disbelief. But then I didn't realize the impact that being in a worldwide magazine makes your credibility and your validity just go through the roof. I remember
Mm.
after that came out, people started looking me up. I had 1,000 emails in my inbox of people that wanted me on their stage or wanted me to come to their podcast, and that was very overwhelming.
Mhm.
But and then I thought, wow, when something as big as Forbes backs you up, it gives you the stamp of approval that you're doing something right.
Yes. Yes, most definitely. And I'm I'm like, girl, yes. Her website, I'm gonna have her website on the screen so you guys can go and check out all of her articles and things like that. Cause Angelica's dope, y'all. She's over here downplaying it, but she's dope. Make sure y'all go follow her. Advice to young girls. What advice do you have for the young girls?
Wow. It's never always going to be like this. That was probably the best piece of advice because we are so locked in into thinking that our lives are going to be like this forever, but they're not. And
Yeah.
they change, in high school and you think you're always going to be the ugly kid or the unpopular one or the
Mhm.
nerdy one. And then, high school is a fraction of your life,
Small
like a
fraction.
small fraction of your life, and then you leave and you realize there's this huge world out there. So it's never gonna stay like this.
I love it. Environment. Your environment can really just impact you. I think if I would have stayed where I grew up, I would have been totally different. But once you get out of your environment, like you said, and you get out into the world, you're like, oh, wait, there's a lot out here. I could be doing this. I could be doing that. It kind of opens your mind up. It's like I always talk about how we grow up thinking like we just go to school, get a good job. And, you know, that's what most of us do because we're smart enough to do it. So that's what we do because that's what we were told to do. But not knowing we had access to so much more freedom. And so that's the thing about, I think about entrepreneurship and God, like pushing you into spaces that you never thought you would have been in because it's like, wow, I was meant to do so much more.
Right.
And so I think having those epiphany moments are so important. And I'm so glad you said that because I really want young girls to get that real world experience and start to see that you don't have to be normal. Like, you don't, nothing against nurses, we need y'all. But I'm just saying, like, nurses, the typical jobs that people think of, you don't have to necessarily do that in order to create profit and create a good living for your family. And to be successful. Everybody's success looks different. And so the motivational speaking piece, how did you get into the motivational speaking area? Like, was that just a part of you publishing your book? It's just kind of like something you've always done, but never really put a title on it?
No, not really. So the writing part became easy for me because I was writing people's stories. So when you interrogate, people don't realize that a whole report comes behind it. And so I had been writing other people's stories for 17 years. So the writing for me came easy. So that wasn't a problem. And writing was also an outlet for me. But the speaking kind of happened when people wanted me to tell my story on stage. And I got put on stage. And thankfully, I like to speak, I like to be around people. And but really, what catapulted me was Natasha Graciano. She is one of the most prominent female speakers, motivational speakers in the world. She was on the cover of Forbes for 40 under 40 or 30 under 30, I think it was. And I DM'd her one day and she responded.
Come on, risk taker.
Yeah, she responded and she has like 15 million followers. And by the grace of God, she actually responded with a video text back to me and said, I literally made a request. And this is very important for people is when you want something, ask for it. And I told her, I said, I want to be like you. What can I do? And she said, come to LA and come on my stage. So this was like a Tuesday. I was on a flight Thursday. I was on her stage on Friday.
Wow.
So she put me on the stage. So if you look at my Instagram, it's the first video on my Instagram. She put me on her stage. And from that stage, everybody heard my story and saw who I was. And that catapulted my speaking career. And that also got the attention of other producers to land my movie deal.
Wow.
Because there was a girl sitting on the audience who her brother is the owner of Gold Tree Films that I signed on to.
That's the definition of get in the room. And she literally put herself there by saying, hey, I'm going to just take a risk and hey, I'm going to go for it. I think people hold themselves back a lot because they're hesitant about getting started or maybe asking somebody for an opportunity. You know, like the things that you think, sometimes you think people are going to say no. And in your case, she was like, hey, come on.
The crazy thing is discomfort and being uncomfortable, you know, and I give this analogies that are so simple, you know, like when a flower breaks through the ground, it hurts. It's a traumatic event. Or a butterfly, when it comes out of its cocoon, it's a struggle. And I think that if you don't struggle, it doesn't feel good. You know, you're supposed to struggle. Things are not supposed to be easy. So change happens when you're uncomfortable, when you're in the uncomfort.
Come on. Come on, change happens. It really does. It really does. Because I swear, like 5 years ago, I would be like, you want me to talk on, you want me to do what? And I'm not doing that. I'm not putting anything online. And so now every day I just find myself doing more and more and more because I'm getting comfortable. But before, it was uncomfortable. I'd be sweating like, oh my God, I really got to go do this. And so I just love for people to share their side because it's normal. It's normal to feel that way. It's normal to be uncomfortable when you're changing or when you're growing. Evolving. It's not going to feel good all the time, but you can do it. Like you can do it. You can get through whatever it is that you're going through. Anything else that you would like to share with the people today?
I think, and I said this before, is dream with your eyes open, right? Because if you don't put any action into your dreams, then they never become a reality. Wow. It's okay to dream, but you have to put action behind it so that they become a reality.
You got to get out of here. I think I talked about this in my season finale. It's like we spend so much time here and we spend so much time looking for validation from other people that we never get started. It's like we're always, oh, let me buy this course. Oh, let me do this, but then we never put it into play. And it's like, why am I doing this if my life is going to look the same every year? Right. It should look different. And so y'all look to catch Angelica on some of these stages. She's going to be on different other podcasts. So make sure y'all go follow her. I'm going to have her information up on the screen. And so this is the part of the episode where I like to open the floor for questions. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah. So what is your biggest accomplishment with your podcast?
I think just starting, because I just started my own this year. And so I think just starting because it has allowed me to meet some amazing people. And those amazing people have provided me with some opportunities and just stuff that I had up here and that I had on my vision board. It's like they're pushing me to actually do those things. Like you said, put it into action. And so I'm just grateful for that. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Where do you see yourself in 2 years?
In 2 years, I see myself, I like to travel. So I see myself traveling a little more. This year, my husband and I moved into the studio. And so this was the year that we were like building and starting. And so now we're like expanding and thinking about, of course, in 2 years, we would like to have our own facility. Like our own land with the facility, with just learning rooms and classrooms and just workshops and where we host events. And so that's the goal. That's kind of where I see myself in 2 years.
That's a great goal.
Yeah. Just running that and just moving forward with my brand. I want to see Allow Yourself Grace grow into something bigger than a podcast. So right now I'm starting a community. So there's just like different things that I'm doing for me. Because I always like to say that because women are always like, how do you do stuff with your husband and you do stuff on your own? And then how do y'all keep that separate? You have to stay true to who you are though at the end of the day. Like there's stuff that I enjoy that he doesn't enjoy.
Right.
So, and that's okay. But we still have our stuff together. And so I think I don't call it balance because something's always gonna lack in some area sometimes. But just try to make sure you're always fulfilling your purpose. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Last one. This was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing that has ever happened to you, would you take it back or would you leave it?
I would take it back because the worst thing that happened to me was my mom passed away at 41. She was 41. And so
I'm about to be 41.
Yeah, I would take that moment back because that was just like a surreal moment for me. I felt like I was in a dream for a little bit. And so I wouldn't want anyone to have to experience that at that age, right? Because we prepare for it when they're a little older. Not that you're ever really prepared, but her going that young just really was like, what? Like, I wasn't ready for that. So I think that would be something I'd be like, can I get my mom back?
Yeah, that would be your one take back.
Mm-hmm. And that was part of my reason for starting this as well. It's just, this is my therapy. And I always learn from other people when they're on my podcast. So, yeah, I love it.
That's great.
All right, y'all. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking time to come and be on. Look, y'all, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to have her. But I want to thank you so much for coming and blessing my platform. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.
Thank you.
Well, guys, that concludes our episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Allow Yourself Grace podcast. For additional information about today's episode, please click the link in the show notes below. To learn more about our Grace Girls community and other resources we have to offer, head over to www.allowyourselfgrace.com. Until next time, Grace Girls, I love you all, be blessed, and continue to strive for success.